Alright, good morning guys. Welcome to Harvest Moon Farm. My name is Mickey if you're new here. And today we are going to be butchering the first set of our meat chickens. We've got another batch coming in next week to replace the ones that we're butchering now. So I'm going to show you our setup, and then I'm probably not going to show a lot of detail of what I'm doing. I'll just show you kind of some of the process. So let me grab the camera and I'll take you around and show you what we've got. Alright, so this station here, my husband has, let me turn this up a little bit where you can see. So my husband has the cones up there with buckets underneath them. This is where he's going to actually slit the chicken's throat so that it will bleed out. That is the most humane way to kill them. We've got a couple of buckets right here, big tubs, full of ice, and that's where I'm going to put the chickens when I'm done with my piece. And then we've got our chicken plucker, and so after he has killed them and they've drained, then he'll throw them in the chicken plucker and it will defeather them for me so I don't have to do it by hand, which is fabulous. And then he'll bring them to me and then I'll do my piece. And then they'll go in a tub of cold water. We dip the chickens in scalding water, and then we've got this plucker. We put them in there and turn it on, run the water while they're spinning, and it'll just strip the feathers right off. It's fantastic. And then my husband is throwing them in a tub of cold water, and then I take them from the cold water and start processing them. So I'll show you, he's getting ready to throw a couple in there.
It'll take about 20 or 30 seconds. You don't want to get too hot. 160 seems to be the prime thing.
And then all of the feathers kind of run out the side. You can see there's a pile over, like on that right side over here. There's a pile of feathers that are coming out the opening as they come off the chicken. So this was definitely worth the investment. It was about, what, $300 or $400? I want to say it might have been close to $400, but it was definitely worth the investment because I didn't want to pluck all these chickens by hand. Alright, so I'm going to show you here what I'm doing to the chickens after they're...
30 seconds, no feathers.
Alright, so the first thing I did was cut off the feet, and I'll show you how I did that on one of these next ones. I cut off the tips of the wings. I'm not really a big fan of wings. To me, they are just, I know people will not be happy with me, but to me they're useless. So I'm going to cut this little spot right above the neck so that we can get to the neck. And then I'm just going to cut the neck off. We're not going to keep it. So I've got a bucket over here for my pieces that I don't want. This little table was a nice thing too. It's got a way to run water. You just put a bucket underneath the drain and whoops, all of that just drains out. Alright, so now from the back end, we're just going to cut this open like that. Just barely cut into it, and then we're gonna, well, you gotta cut through the, there we go. And then we're gonna use our fingers to tear it open. And then we're gonna stick our hand in just like that. You can wear gloves. I started out wearing gloves the first time I did this, but it's just easier without them. You just pull everything out just like that. little tail piece over here. I don't know what you call it.
I think they call it the oil gland or something.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called, but I do not want that on my chicken, so I cut it off. All right, so now you've got this mess of innards. So we're going to save some of this. We've got the heart and the liver and whatever this is. I don't necessarily know what the gizzard maybe. I don't necessarily know what everything is because I don't eat these pieces. My dad likes them, so I'm going to pull some of this off. And I'm going to save some of this stuff for my dad's. So this here is the gallbladder, that little black tube. You definitely want to make sure that you don't cut that, because then you'll have a mess. And then all the rest of that garbage goes there in the bucket. All right, so I'm just gonna rinse this one. Well, I missed something here. I missed the end of the esophagus. I can get a hold of it. There we go. All right, so now we could rinse these if you want. I'm just going to put these in a bucket of or tub of cold water that we've got here, and then we're going to wait till we're done with all of them, and then I'm going to clean them all off, and we're going to put them in a tub and pack them with ice. So once you get the hang of it, it's pretty simple. It just takes a little bit. So I'm going to cut the feet off. I am going to save the feet. I'm not going to eat them. I know people do, and you can, but I'm going to use them in my stock. So here I'm cutting the wingtips off. Actually, I should put that in here so I can put it in my stock. And they're slippery too, so they're kind of... All right, there we go. All right, so we are just going to keep moving right along during the same process until we've got all of these done. We had 36, so we'll just keep going until we've got them all. And I'm not going to keep the necks, even though they might make good stock, because they've got all those little tiny bones that when you cook it, start coming out, and then you have to, it's just a pain. I'm just going to throw them over here. So I couldn't find my knives that I used last year. I tried pretty much every knife in my kitchen. None of them were sharp enough, even when I tried sharpening them. So I had to go run and get some new knives. But now that I've got them, let's try that again. Now that I've got them, the process is going to go pretty quickly. You saw how fast it really goes. So, you know, and we've only got 36. It's not like we have 300, because that would take a little bit longer. But so I'm going to keep working on these, and then I will be back to show you what these look like when we're all done. So there's our tub of processed chicken. All the feet and wing tips are inside. I washed them off, or rinsed them off, and put them in baggies in the refrigerator. The innards that my dad wanted, I also rinsed off and put in a baggie in the refrigerator, and I'll sort it later for him into smaller packages because he won't be able to eat all that at once. And so my husband's got the propane tank going again. Once that reaches temperature, then we're going to go ahead and bag up chickens. So
So I'm prepping the chicken into the bag and the straw and the zip tie and all of that. And then Joe has on those big gloves that are sort of heat proof, so he can hold the chicken down in the water for 5 or so seconds. And then when he pulls it back up, then he holds it for another 10 seconds or so, and the bag will cool, and then it will shrink around the chicken. And then he brings it back to me. We tighten the zip tie, and then I give him the next chicken. All right, so I think we're down to the last one here. We've got them in that black plastic tub behind me, and Joe is going to go get some bags of ice, and we're just going to pack that down with ice and let those sit until they've cooled down, and then we'll put them in the refrigerator so that they're ready for me to start processing.
Alrighty, so all of our chickens are processed. My husband's cousin took some on the day that we were processing. She came by because she had wanted some, and I've got some that are going to a friend of mine, some that are going to the kids, so I just need to get those. The bags are really big, so I just need to get the tops of the bags cut off, the zip ties cut off, and make sure they're all dried up on the outside of the bag. And then I'm going to put those in the freezer, and the kids will get theirs next weekend. But in this pot, I have the feet and the wing tips that I cut off. And yes, I did wash them. I didn't just put their dirty, nasty feet in this pot. I did wash everything off. I've got it in this pot cooking down, and we are going to turn this into some delicious stock. Okie dokie. So here is the pot of our chicken wing tips and feet that have been boiling, kind of just cooking down all day. So I am going to strain it now. Actually, let me see. Actually, I think what I'm going to do first is use some tongs to pull as much meat out of the pot as I can and put it in this bowl. That way I don't have such a heavy pot and I don't have so much meat flipping into the pot that I'm just going to use for, stuck here, that I'm just going to use for the broth. Chicken feet are so weird.
So what made the chicken feet?
And then once you cook them, they get this kind of pearly look to them. It's really strange. So I'm just going to try and get all this out of here, and then I'm going to dump that in through my strainer into that bowl. And then once I've got it all strained, then I can get it in jars and get it in the canner. So I'm going to try and get the rest of this out with this mesh sieve here. Because it's getting kind of hard to get a hold of these. Ow. It's very hot. Alright, let's see what else is in here. I think there's a few more pieces in here. Alright. Whatever else is in there now will just get caught in when I strain it. Alright, so what I wanted to use was cheesecloth. I have some. After I used it last time, I washed it and I put it somewhere. Unfortunately, I don't know where that somewhere is at the moment, so I'm going to use this towel. And I do occasionally use this for straining, so I know that it works. So if I can get my, oops, get this sitting in here correctly. And then I'm just going to start pouring this through, kind of slowly at first, so it doesn't knock my strainer into the bowl. All right. Oh, that's not what I want to do. Oh my goodness, what a dingling. Ooh, that was a lot more broth than I thought it was. All right. So sometimes if I've got a lot of smaller pieces of meat in there, I'll double strain it, I'll strain it again. But this really just had the feet and those little wingtips. It actually looks pretty good. So let's see here. Put this here. And now I'm going to get my jars and start filling them. All right. So since my broth is hot and my jars are not, I am going to get this stuff out of this side of my sink. And then I'm just going to get some hot water running in here. My jars are clean. I just need to get them warmed up. In my canner. I think I probably have more than 5 quarts worth of broth here. Alright, get this jar all nice and hot. And then I'm just going to use this Pyrex glass measuring cup to start filling these jars. Ow. Maybe I will try not to pour it on myself. This broth looks very light when I have it in the jars. Oops. But it looks dark in this bowl, so I think it will be, ouch, fine. Actually, before I say that, I probably should give it a little taste. And let's just see. No. That is too much. That is just watery. So, let's see. Alright, so now I will have to wash these jars before I use them. So what I'm going to do is pour my broth back into my pot, and I'm just going to let it cook down so that it cooks out some of that water, and then concentrate that chicken flavor. So all I really did was make more dishes for myself right this minute, but that's okay. So I've got this back in the pot. I'm gonna get this boiling, and then I'm gonna turn it down and I'm just gonna let it simmer. So I'm just gonna make sure I have a good idea of what level the liquid is at in my pan to start with. It probably needs to be reduced maybe by half to get that really strong chicken broth flavor that we're looking for. All right, so I cooked my chicken broth down and it looks much better now. It's still lighter than I'm used to because I typically put vegetables in mine, and I did not in this. This is just chicken. So I'm adding my water to my canner. And then I'm gonna get this started. So alright, so put my lid on. And I'm going to start. We want to can these for 25 minutes. I've got quarts here. Quarts here. So we want 25 minutes on our timer. And I forgot I should put the jars in first. All right, so I'm going to put my jars in. Hopefully, I think this only holds 5, which is disappointing because I have 6. All right, it is only going to hold 5. So I'm going to put 4 in this batch and 2 in the next. Put my lid on, lock it down. All right, so now this is going to start warming up, and when it's ready for the next step, it's going to beep at me, and I will come in and push the button. Alrighty, there we go. We ended up with 6 quarts of bone broth, chicken broth, whatever you want to call it. So I just took those last 2 out of the canner. They should be sealed. One of them, the seal's already popped. So I'm going to let these sit right here on the counter until tomorrow, and then I will remove the rings, mark the lids, and put them away. All right, so it's the next day. My broth jars are cooled. I had one that did not seal, so I stuck it in the refrigerator, and I'll just use it over the next week or so on something. So I'm going to take my rings off, and I'm just going to mark these. What is this? And then I can take them and add them to my basement storage. So I'm just writing on here chicken and 623 so that I know when I process these. All right, so I'm just gonna put these to the side now. And then I am gonna go start bringing up some of the chickens so that I can get them cleaned up and weighed. And then some of those are gonna go in the freezer. Some of them are going to one of my high school friends who wanted some of the chicken. So I'm gonna go get those and we'll get started with that. Okay, so I've got some labels here so I can just put the weight on each one. If I can get a hold of the label sheet. There we go. So I'm gonna go and drip. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is cut off this excess bag and the excess zip tie. I'm gonna dry this off, and we're gonna weigh this and put it on the right. There we go. Okay. If I can get the label off. Oh my goodness, come on. There we go. So I'm just going to stick this on here. And then I'm just going to do all the rest just like this. Get off the bag, which is sort of dripping. Cut off the zip tie, the extra, not the whole zip tie. Dry this off a little bit and weigh it. So my friend wanted 9, so I'm gonna, these don't want to stick very well. Well, my friend wanted 9, so I'm gonna pull out his 9 first, get them in a cooler so I can get those, take them with me tomorrow so he can meet me and pick these up. Someplace I have labels that actually go on this plastic for these bags, but of course I don't know where they are. Shocker. Last one here. So these are pretty small still. They're bigger than they were last year, but they're still on the small side. They seemed bigger than this when we were processing them. All right, so here's the last one for my friend. I still have, let's see, 15, I still have 21 downstairs that I need to cut the bags and get them in the freezer. And I will handle that once I'm done with these. So there we go. So these are all ready. I'm gonna stick these in this cooler. I'm gonna get some ice in it. And then I'll probably take it back downstairs where it's coolest so that it will stay cool until tomorrow morning. And I think the dog just realized how hot it is outside. It's really kind of terrible today. All right, come on, you get in here. Let's see. All right, there we go. All right, so
that was this year's processing of our meat chickens. And we've got 25 more coming of the Red Ranger variety, I believe. And so we'll be processing those later in September. Thank you for watching.